Visualizer is a tool that we use for creating the dashboards. Um, so the first thing when we are on the visualizer is to add the data source or the workbook which we are trying to do the visualizations on or create the reports on. So for example, when you click this option, you have the option to select your sources, and it will show all the workbooks present in that workspace. So these are the workbooks that we have created. For example, you can also start searching. If there is like a search events workbook, you want to try it out on, you can select it from here. Now this gives the information about more details about when it was created and the what is the query powering it and all that information. So once you select your workbook, it displays all the columns present in the workbook on your left hand panel. So any kind of a date column, you have the representation with the date notation icon here. Any text column is represented with the symbol A. And then any numeric information is there on the workbook. You see it with this number notation. So any that's how we differentiate. If it's like so this is removed column is a checkbox column. So it was showing with this checkbox icon. And these are the different data types and how you can see them on the visualizer here. So from here, if you want to now start exploring of how to create the widgets, so you can simply start adding these columns onto your selection panel. So for example, now I want to understand what are my total users count for the welcome page events that we have. I simply select the column and then I choose the metric selection of how I want to view this dimension. So I want to do a count on the user ID. So I select the count as my aggregation type here and then hit generate. So now it gives me the total count of all the user ID or all the events that happened on the welcome page workbook for all the records. Now this is showing all the different records that are present, which is having the user ID column. But now if you want to understand something like a distinct count of users or user IDs present in the workbook, you choose the different aggregation distinct count, unique count. So now it's giving the unique count of users present in the welcome pages workbook. Now, if I want to understand how the access trend has been for these users over time, I can pick the event time column. So this will help me visualize what is my trend looking like on a month on month basis, the user access trend for the welcome page events. So you can, on the x-axis, you have the time range, and then the user ID's unique counters are looking on the y-axis. So this is how you can simply start adding the columns and start visualizing them on the visualizer here.
Yeah.
Any questions?
So I'll just add one thing, Rachna.
Mhm.
So over here, if you can, if you saw that, based upon selecting the column or the dimensions, it automatically select the chart type, right? And then you have an options. This is the default chart type. The systems thinks this is the best chart type for those two dimensions that you select, but you also have an option to change those chart types and change or customize this widget, which Rachna will go into those details. But at an eye level, I think this is that
Correct.
easy to create any kind of charts. Yeah.
Yeah. So the visualizer tool is like smart enough. So initially, when we added just a user ID count, it gave us a KPI metric because it felt that was the best visualization for it. And then when we started adding a time column series to it, it's giving us the line chart visualization because that's the best chart for this combination. Similarly, if we start trying to add more columns to it, now it gives us a table widget. So it's switching to a table widget because we are adding multiple metrics and dimensions and columns to it. So it's switching to the best possible visualization based on the columns and information that we're passing to it. But user at any point is flexible to choose the visualizations that he prefers. Yeah. So, for example, in this case, we have an line chart as a representation. We can also switch to area or bar chart here. Yeah, so let's switch back to the line chart that we have here. So currently it's doing the aggregation on the monthly level. In case you want to change the aggregation type to yearly or weekly or daily, that is feasible too, just by changing the aggregation on the column type here. So, and then this is the one, this aggregation we already went over. So you can change the aggregation to reflect or change the patterns on the widgets. And coming to the configurations panel, so on each widget, you can set up how you want to, how the labels have to be represented or the any changes that you want to do. So currently it's giving the column name as event type. So if you want to make any changes, you can do it from the configurations panel. And on the y-axis, we have the name coming up, column name coming up directly as user ID, but you can change it to count. And by default, the notations is going to take based on the size of the data, sometimes in millions or in thousands, or if it's too small, just the regular numbers. But user can always choose the notation type. They can switch it and also the decimal points. So this configuration also you can set it up from the configurations panel here. This color is about the color option on your widget. So any kind of color shades you want to change it to, or if there's specific colors like for upland, Nadine had given us a color palette codes. So if there is some specific color code that you want to change it to, you can update it manually from this hex code here. So here we have added one dimension and one metric. So we are seeing one axis here. But just in the case like we had this widget, so it's having two axes. So if you're trying to visualize multiple metrics together, so this is how it would come up. But yeah, I mean, again, like based on the use cases, we try to like give the visualizations and definitions here and the aggregations also. So you can basically change your labels and columns and dimensions from the configuration panel. Yeah, okay. I think this is too much. So what it's trying to do here is it's trying to slice by the first name, but and there are like too many too much information for it. So it is asking to limit the or reduce the users. So it's another configuration that we can do, like only show top and bottom analysis. So that information I will get into a bit shortly. I'm just trying to keep it very simple in the first phase. So next option is the settings. So on the settings option, you can label your charts. So give it a title, what this chart is speaking about. By default, it just tries to aggregate it based on the columns. Whatever columns are selected, it gives that title information. This sorry, okay, I'm trying. So this is a title I want to give, and I hit apply. So this is how you can change your widget titles and the display. So these are more additional configurations. Like if there is some zero values, how do you want to represent the nulls? If you want to hide them or show them, and the legends, if there is more metrics and columns, how the legends placements should be, and all that information. So yeah. So once you have set up your widget and everything, and if you feel this is good and comfortable, you can then pin it to a dashboard. So you have the save option here. So pin it to a dashboard, or if you want save as draft, is basically going to give you if you just want to save it as a draft but not on the dashboard, you want to revisit it and make changes, you can just save it as a draft. It doesn't appear on the dashboards. But if you want to pin it to a dashboard, you choose the dashboard page. If it's an existing one, like we already have some created, you can pin to them, or you can create a new dashboard from the create new dashboard option, and then give it a title and pin your visualization. So from here, you can either continue on the existing one or create a new one or go to the dashboard where it's pinned to. So yeah, this is how it looks once it's pinned to your dashboard. uh, we have created the so if from the dashboard section you want to create a new dashboard page, you have the create page option from here. But this is the demo page that we created from the visualizer, and the dashboard is pinned here. And making edits to the current widget, you have from the settings option, you have the edit option. So this, when you do this flow, it takes you to the same visualization look. So it gives you the same information and the same representations here. So any edits you want to make on the existing widget on your dashboard, you can do it from there. So coming to the filters, so for example, I'll show one report which has both the filters added. So from the visualizer layer, whatever filters that we try to create on the date column or any other column, those we call as our term as the widget level filters. And anything that's created on the page level here, these are the dashboard level or page level filters. So how you can identify them is these icons here on each widget. You have the, if it's like a widget level, you have this option. Currently there's no widget level filter added on this KPI, so it's saying no widget level, but this is the page level filter that's currently added on it. So that's how you distinguish between a page level and a widget level filter on each of the dashboard widgets. So coming to this case, so there is one widget called feedback journey. Now this is having the page level filter that's coming in from here, and this also has some of the widget level filters that I added when during the process of creation of this widget. So for example, these are, so when I clicked on this, it is showing me all the widget level filters that are applied to this. So feedback event type. So there were like multiple event types. I just selected the ones that I wanted to see. And fields also, there are a lot of fields that come in on the feedback events. So I just wanted to understand the overall journey of like who created the feedback and what is the just the current status. So a lot of things like priority, resolution notes, due date, document version, all these columns, I haven't selected them. So I only selected a few that I wanted. And at any point, the widget should always reflect only these filtered options. So that's the reason I have added this specific filter on my widget. And event time also, I kept it like for the whole range, so that if the dashboard you're just trying to filter for a specific range for particular user ID, if you have the feedback ID selection here. So if I'm trying to filter for a specific feedback ID, and if the user is wanting to see the whole journey of like from the start of time to end latest time, all the events that occurred for that feedback ID. So I wanted to keep the whole time range for the events. So I have added like to date on the event time column. So now what happens when I add the same filter column on both widget level and page level is the widget level filter set takes preference over the page level filter, which means if I'm trying to change the event timestamp on the page level to just this month, but my widget level is saying or set to complete time range, it still is going to honor the widget level filter and filter it for all time and not restrict to just 1 month's time. So on the home page, you also see dashboards. So these are like the external dashboards that we have. And what we are doing is we have created different units for different customers here, and we are trying to embed all the dashboards present in that unit to the upland. So for example, we have one created for the nation's benefits. So what happens is you have the embed link from here. So I mean, initially from your workspace, you have the share option. You can do and add it to a dashboard or a particular interface. So which interface you want to add it to, you can pick it from here. The external dashboard section is just going to have only the dashboards, no raw data or underlying data present in it. The workspaces were like having the whole component and unit for workbooks, visualizer, and the dashboards. But these external dashboards that you see is just purely for the dashboard sharing purpose, even if the user doesn't have access to the workspaces. So that's the purpose for having like an external dashboard unit space. And the typically like how Upland is doing is they are embedding these reports into the Upland software. So we have the embed URL here, so it's filtered per tenant. So that's how one tenant doesn't get to see the data of other tenant. And set up the local host information, the security authentications, and what features are enabled. And then this is the code that they are using for integrating and setting up the embedded analytics. So yeah, so typically once you have some new dashboard that you're creating on your workspaces and you want to start publishing it, so you can add it to this external dashboard space, and then that gets automatically embedded. So it's like one URL per all the for all the dashboards present in that unit. So yeah, that's what this feature is about. Let's understand how to create level of detail or LOD expressions on DataGOL. What does LOD mean? LOD or level of details gives you the ability to restrict certain information of data aggregated at certain levels. For example, on a formula column, I can create LOD fixed on a certain metric, for a certain metric on a certain dimension. For example, here I'm trying to restrict the total sales, which is fixed per payment type. And how to use it? Let's try to add this column and also the regular payment total sales column, and then across payment types, maybe further split across processors. Let's rearrange the columns: payment type, processors, total sales, and LOD. So for the payment type as credit card, which is further split into different processors, the total sales across different processors is changing here, but we have aggregated the LOD sales to always show per credit card per the level of payment type. So it's combining all of these into the single metric here and remaining constant for the payment type as credit card. So this is how you can restrict or aggregate certain information to certain level using LOD on DataGOL. Now you can pin this widget to the dashboard from here. Pin it to dashboard, demo. Now go to the new visualization. Now, coming to another concept that we have on DataGOL is conditional formatting. So this conditional formatting you can apply on widgets like pivot tables or regular tables. So let's try to create three columns and distinguish the different modes of how we can do conditional formatting. So on a table widget like this, we have total sales, sales in USD, and then total transactions. So select the column that you want to apply the conditional formatting on. Go to conditional formatting. One is by data bars. You can pick and choose a color that you want and hit apply. Now, as a data bars, it's showing like a progress bars based on the quantity it's being done. You can always sort your columns from here. Now it's showing how the progress has been. And you can also freeze or hide or sort your columns by doing a right click on your widget column here. Now let's go to the other type of doing a conditional formatting, that is via setting up the conditions. So if the value is greater than certain number, you want to color code it in a certain way, or if it is less than a condition, you want to color code in a certain way. So you can set up those colors from the specific conditions here. So the other way of doing The other way of doing a conditional formatting is to start adding as a heat map mode. So it just goes from highest to lowest and shows you the colors gradings specific to the size of the data that you have in the widget. So these are three ways of doing or setting up your conditional formatting on table widgets. So once you have done, let's pin this to the dashboard. Now, the other kind of a widget that you can try out on DataGOL will be your pivot tables. So for pivot tables here, it shows you what is going into the columns and the rows, columns and values. So we can also switch and swap between the columns that you want to go by simply toggling into swapping it from here. So now it's showing you on rows, year, month, and the columns for payment type and processor. Now, if you want to view this better on the settings panel, you have currently it's set to flat mode, but you can do a like a tree view. So you see the distinguishing easier. So for cache type, for different cache types on different processors, it's showing similarly for check and then so on. So another thing that you can set up on your configurations on the settings panel here is the formatting for if you want to see the grand totals or column totals from here or the subtotals or eliminate that. So this information can also be set up on your pivot tables. So once you have this, you can pin it to a dashboard from here. Now let's try to do another visualization type. So let's continue on how to set up and do the folder structure on DataGOL. So for creating a folder filter, you would essentially first need the hierarchy level flattening, which is giving you the parent ID, and document name information. So this gives you an understanding of where and how the document is present in the nested structure of the document array. So once you have these three information present in a workbook, now you can go to to the dashboards. On the dashboards, you have the settings option. On the settings, you do manage filters. From the manage filters, you have the document ID, the folder filter that we have created. So you're trying to essentially now create this filter and make it work on the documents table or the activity table. So we have the activity table selected, and you're trying to essentially do a document ID filtering. So you do the document ID as a filter column, and then you set up on the filter settings as a you generally when you create a filter, it will be in standard mode, but you want to select the tree mode for this. And once you do the tree mode, you have to select the workbook that which is having the hierarchy structure that we have just seen. So from here, you do select the columns, the document ID, the parent ID column, and then the label column. So once you have set up this whole structure, you create the filter. And how this filter looks like is on the home section, you have the root. Now, root has all the different tabs in it and all the different other sub document section, subfolders and subfolders, and then the final file here. So you can select the file or document where you want to understand its analytics from directly in this way, or you can also do search from here. So it also gives you the entire nested structure of the path where the file is present. You can hit apply, and then the entire dashboard now loads for that particular route or the entire path that we have selected. And each dashboard on data goal is enabled with the time zone localization. In case you want this to be set up on your account or on your company, you can contact the data goal team to help you set this up. But once it's set up on your dashboards for your company, it will reflect on all the dashboards. And by default, it's going to pick the time zone for based on your local time zone, but you can also switch to the time zone that you want to prefer. So my automatic one is set to New York, but I can switch it to UTC. So what happens when you switch the time zones here is that the widget data is also loaded or changed based on the time zone that you change it to. That is, if you're trying to understand the event level information here, what tenant A has accessed when and how, now this time will be changed or switched based on the time zone that that you try to locate it towards. So that's how you can add on like a good feature to your dashboards when you're using it on DataGOL. So another concept that you can try it out is theming. So when you have the option on settings, you have a theme editor on each dashboard. So you can add the background colors, font and text and all different things on your dashboard colors. So you can pick and choose from the ones that you create and save. So this is how you can set up theming on your dashboards. These themings will be applicable once you do embedding of your dashboards onto external application. So for embedding, you have the option of sharing, embed your dashboard, set up the configurations on your dashboard, security, authentication, and code. So this on the features, you have the option to select, enable the time zone and the dashboard theming that you wanted to apply. So this way you can set up your theming on your dashboard and share it to your external teams. So overall, we have covered how a visualizer, how you can do different aggregations and different combinations of charts on visualizer, how to save that as a widget and a draft, pinning it to a dashboard, and then adding as filters here, uh, page level versus widget level definitions, how to create a BI workbooks, drill downs, theming, and then latest the folder filters, different kind of formulas and parameters, conditional formatting, and how you can do sharing to your team members. Thank you.